with the Business is brought to you by Audible.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Married with a Business. I'm Craig.
And I'm Allison.
And we're Married with a Business. We're here to share tips, tricks, stories of what it's like to be a married couple that own, operate a business together, raise a family, all of those things.
All of those things.
That's a lot of stuff.
And we did so many family things recently. It was like we squeezed a whole year's worth of stuff into one weekend.
So I just want to go on record and say, you say a lot. Hey, we never do anything. We never take the kids anywhere. So in one weekend, we overbooked.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm going to use my feeling words here. I guess it's not that we don't do things with the kids. We don't do things the way I did them when I was a kid. There are things that we did all the time as a kid that we have yet to do with our kids, and that is killing me.
But there are things that we do with
they've outgrown being able to take them on down to Boston to see the Make Way for Ducklings because we just never got there. Now they're teenagers and they don't care. And like I would go to Salem, Massachusetts all the time, and we've never taken them there. And so
I feel like Salem, Massachusetts.
Salem is like the craw, that's the thorn in my side. We just have to take them so I can be like, okay, I finally took them.
We take our kids. We've done a ton of things with our kids that you never did or I never did.
I know. I'm so sorry.
So I'm just giving you a hard time about it. You deserve a little bit of a hard time.
I do, and it's my crazy, and here I will admit it, I'm self-aware.
So we planned months ago, like back in the summer, we planned to go to a concert.
Their very first concert.
We took the boys to their very first real concert.
Yeah, we took them into Boston to a music hall, we went to the MGM, whatever it's called. Music hall. Oh. And that was the weekend was planned around this.
Yeah, so we planned that months and months in advance. We went with a couple other families. It was great. It's a band that all the families like. That's they're a national band. They're I can say their name.
Yeah.
They're the Elevators. They're kind of local here to the South Shore area.
They're from the South Shore, but they tour nationally.
Yeah. So they're from the Boston area, but they tour nationally. So the kids really love them. It was a really fun time. But so about, 2 weeks before that, I'm a theater geek. I have a theater degree. I used to work in the theater professionally. And so I'm always reading and seeing. And I saw, they're trying a musical for the book Wonder, which the boys read when they were younger.
Yeah, they both read it in school. They both saw the movie in school.
And I said, Allison, they're doing a musical at the ART in Harvard Square. I was like, let's buy tickets and go. And you're like, yeah, let's buy tickets and go. So I bought tickets.
And we're not impulsive people. I'm a high C, guys. I'm never yeah, let's just do it. So we just on the couch ordered tickets.
So, but we weren't really paying attention to our calendar. And so Friday night were the tickets to go see Wonder. Saturday were the tickets to go see the Elevators play, the band. And so we were out with the kids in the city 2 nights until midnight or later.
Well, because they go to school halfway between the city and home, we pick them up from school, and it's freezing in Massachusetts. So we're all right, what are we going to do between the dinner reservation and school? So we said, we'll go to the Harvard Art Museum. Great. So we drive in, we park, we're walking through Harvard Square. I was the Harvard bookstore, let's go in. They're getting to high school level, so we're starting to talk about colleges. So we spent an hour in the Harvard bookstore,
which was a blast.
Which was great. We bought them books. We walked over to the Harvard Art Museum. We spent time there. Then we went to dinner. Then we went to the play.
It was. I have to tell you,
we did so much stuff in that one weekend.
I have to tell you, that weekend was a phenomenal weekend for me. I had a great time.
It was wonderful, and the memories that were made and the experience was just great. We walked through Harvard Square. We saw the John Harvard statue. It was just. I'm a one thing a weekend person because we also have theater and baseball and all those other things. So it was just so much. We just packed everything. And so February and March, we're doing nothing.
Yeah. We're trying to take
That's a big lie.
Until there's baseball games and there's other things. So no, it was a great time. And we're very hopeful that the musical Wonder will make it to Broadway.
It was amazing. I cried through the book. The play was amazing. I love the fact that they had made the conscious choice to cast the main lead of Augie with someone with a craniofacial difference. It just...
Yeah, it was
as
great.
a mom, you got to see it if it comes Broadway.
It tugged on the heartstrings. It tugged on the heartstrings for sure. So, so that weekend we did not do a good job of setting boundaries.
No, not with ourselves, not with anybody. It was just
or our time.
Free for all.
Yeah, it was a kind of a free for all. We were exhausted. We were. I think Sunday we all we were all kind of off our.
They're gonna need a break by the time school break comes.
Yeah, right. So anyway, that's what we're talking about today is setting boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries are a good thing.
Boundaries are a good thing. I mean, you're a high C, Allison. You like organization.
I need to know what's happening.
You need to know what's happening, and you need to know what you can and can't do. But let's talk a little bit about, we have done a little bit of a training with our team about setting healthy boundaries. Talk a little bit about where that sort of, the origin of that was.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. I have been trying over the last couple of years I've been trying to do a lot more development programs with our managers. And as a small business, sometimes it's hard to go out and buy programs. And there just haven't been a lot of things that are custom to residential remodeling. So I've been building them on our own. And so I keep kind of a running list of things that would be good to help our project managers and our rest of our managers grow as managers and people and employees. And it came up that one of our project managers was really struggling with setting boundaries with our homeowners. He would interact with them in one way at the beginning of the project and then try to set a different boundary towards the end of the project, and it was making homeowners frustrated. So I kind of wanted to sit down and take one of our monthly meetings and talk about how do we set good boundaries from day one and what's healthy for them and what's healthy for our clients.
And this has been something that you've kind of really focused on a lot in your career. It started, let's go to the real origin of it too, where it all started. It started 25 years ago when the business was in your parents' house and your dad lived in the house, and you were coming into the business and starting to take over. And we talked about answering the phone at night. Yeah.
So when I first came into the business 20 years ago, the phone would ring all night, and the answering machine would pick up, and you could hear it from the family room. You could hear it from the bedrooms. And my dad didn't set office hours or times that the business was open. And so that was one of the first things I said to him. I said, you got to put, hey, we're available 8 to 4. And that was a fight. We're going to go out of business if you do that. And I said, okay, can we try it for 2 weeks and see if it makes a difference? And we did. And really, 8:01, the phone would start ringing, and 3:59, the phone would ring. But then it would be a lot quieter unless somebody was trying to call us and literally did not want to speak to us, wanted to leave some sort of message, but didn't actually want to have an interaction with us.
Right.
And so that was that first boundary setting I came up with, because it was ruining my parents' quality of life.
Yeah, even to the point where they used to actually watch TV in the room where the phone was, and he would leave the answering machine on. He wouldn't mute the answering machine.
And this was before cell phones, guys.
Right.
So I know we're all used to it now, but this was before people would text you and not. Again, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But yeah, so my project managers are really dedicated and they're awesome guys, but it's kind of counterintuitive to have your boss be like, dude, you got to work less.
Right.
You got to not be, if something's on fire, call the fire department. If something's leaking, we can call the plumber, turn the water off.
Yeah. It's part of our job as owners, as business owners, to help our team and our employees set those boundaries, because we don't want to burn them out. We don't want them to hate us and not want to be with us and they work me to the bone. That's not a healthy work environment. You can be successful between the hours that you set up to be successful. And then and our project managers know this. If they get a call, if a homeowner is calling or texting them at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, that generally means that there is an issue, or it's something that that is not important and then can be dealt with tomorrow. There's never this. We've set the idea with our team that it's never a necessity to answer your phone every time it rings.
Right. And the goal for them is it's about managing expectations, not creating distance. A lot of people are like, well, my selling feature is that I'm always accessible. That's not healthy.
No.
It's
not healthy for you. It's not healthy for the client.
And it's okay to not be always accessible, because there are times when you aren't going to be accessible and there's nothing you can do about it.
So let's. I might have gotten you off the rails here, Allison. And I'm sorry.
Shocker. I'm easily off the rails.
But we'll talk about it as it relates to the remodeling process a lot. But this is sort of like, this transcends kind of all businesses. And I think the first thing to realize that you have to tell people and they have to understand is, if you are good at what you do, and if you are the person that is the best at what you do or best in the area, like, they will find you, they will hire you. You do not need to be available 24/7.
Right. And let's talking about boundaries. We want to talk about how to be effective and kind and balanced while we're dealing with our clients.
Right. This starts in our process. This starts from the very first time they interact with us, really. Like, we set up the expectation that, Craig doesn't come out and meet with you Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Like, if you want to have a meeting with us and if this project is important to you, there are set times that I will come out. Now, I understand people work, and there are times that we need to help make availability for people, but we set those boundaries.
Yeah, and it's the rare exception that somebody hasn't in the last 20 years been able to adjust to find a time that will work. Because again, that was something that we talked about when you first came on. We have some salespeople on our team that are happy to do it, and that works well with their schedule, and that's fine. That's their boundary. But Mondays might not work with their schedule.
Right.
On the show and with our team and in all of our networking, I talk a lot about the power of communication. Being clear, being kind. When the communication is missing, that's when people are assuming the worst.
Also, when you set a boundary and you say, hey, I'm not going to contact you for this amount of time or whatever, you need to also set the boundary that you will contact them by X time.
Right. Being helpful and flexible is really good, but without those boundaries, it's going to lead to burnout and resentment on levels from both sides.
So, it's a lot of that, idea of making sure people understand, if it's your client, if it's your employee, making sure they understand what the expectation is.
Right. So we talk about the kickoff meeting. Again, if you listen to our process maps episode, this is when, you can do it in anywhere, but that first or second interaction when you're getting ready to move forward. For us, we live with you for a long time. A restaurant you might not be living with that person for more than 45 minutes. But in our world, we're living with you for 2 weeks to 2 years, depending on what we're doing. So we talk about establishing that method. What is the best way to communicate with you in advance? Because we've had project managers who've said, well, I'm not changing the way I do stuff if they have to conform to me. No, they're the client. If they want to text you or they prefer phone calls or emails, we need to make note of that. And that's something we talk about as a team. The salespeople and the design people are figuring that out. They respond best when I communicate with them this way.
Well, and one of our project managers is I will say this is, he probably excels at this better than anything else. He excels at a lot of stuff. He's a great guy, but I think that he is very good at that first meeting. He sets those expectations with homeowners, and he asks them what's best for communicating? Would you rather have email or text? Would you rather have me call you? And then he says, hey, these are the times that I will call you. I don't usually answer my phone in the morning because I'm checking on jobs. I'll talk to you in the afternoon. I've been through these meetings with him a couple of times where we've done that handoff to the homeowner and just listen. And he's not mean about it. He's just to the point. He's like, I don't answer my phone at night because I'm with my kids. But if you leave me a message, I will check the message. If it's important, I'll call you back. If it's not, I'll call you in the morning.
Yeah, explaining that when you're typically available, what your response time will be, setting and then for us, we reiterate that in writing and in our daily logs. Again, not everybody's going to do that, but that's our process, so that you're clear from the very beginning.
Yeah, I'll give you an example right now. I'm a very heavy email person. It is, if you were, I tell people who deal with me all the time, the best way to communicate with me is email. And we have a home food delivery service that delivers food to us occasionally. And they are terrible at this. They are terrible at the organization of the boundary setting. I have told them multiple times, hey, email me when it's time to pay my order or do my invoicing or, put in my new order, email me, all of that stuff.
And don't call me at 7:00 because that's when other clients are available. I'm not available then.
Right. So it's just so interesting how like they're not listening to the tea leaves and, trying to teach our team to listen to the tea leaves.
Right. And then because we are with our clients for a longer period of time, we always have our managers send a follow-up email that restates, this is what I said, this is when I'm typically available, this is when you'll hear from me.
Yeah, and like, with our overall communication process that we have in our business, we touch clients so many different ways in communication, between email and text, obviously with the project managers, down to like we have a software that the clients can log into and kind of manage their project. But
and sometimes you do all that and they still didn't quote unquote hear you.
Right. But let's jump, Allison, and talk a little bit about managing like the stressful interactions that you sometimes have with the clients. They're not following the procedure. They're not listening. They're not doing what they are supposed to do.
Yeah. So when we're dealing with those difficult moments, trying to, validate their feelings. Sometimes we have set boundaries and they just want to push them. Trying to focus on, okay, I understand that the way we're doing it is what we've been doing. It hasn't been working, and focusing on a path forward, not why it went wrong, but what can we do moving forward in the future.
Yeah, we have one client recently, and I've talked to the project manager about that. They kept trying to push that boundary and calling it off hours or wanting to have conversations in off hours. And our project manager did a very good job of continuing to kind of push back and say, like, listen, let me know, like, okay, do you have a lunch break that you take? Let's have a conversation on the lunch break. So kind of, pushing them. You don't want to be, rude about it. You want to be sensitive. You want to be empathetic to them about the challenges of that, but you also want to kind of stand your ground
and gently kind of redirecting them back to what you've agreed upon as those boundaries. And sometimes it's okay when someone's pushing your boundaries to take a step back and take a break, especially if you're having a difficult conversation, and reset yourself before you get more frustrated than is.
Yes. And you also want to make sure that you're documenting everything that you're putting in, if for our process, we call them daily logs that we put into our software. If it might be for you, following up with an email with the client after you've had the conversation, and just saying, hey, can we set a standing meeting for this time at this place, or whatever it might be. And remember, even though it's a difficult conversation and you feel like it may be an attack on you, take a breath. Remember that nobody wants to have a difficult conversation. Nobody wants to have an altercation or whatever it might be. So take a breath, take a step back, and have a little bit of empathy, understanding. Don't let your blood pressure get too high.
Right. One of the things that we've been working on with our team, and if you're a business owner kind of trying to think about how to make things run more smoothly, is we've been going back and making a list of like challenges we've had with homeowners in certain areas and creating case studies of what was the challenge, what did we do, what could we do in the future, to kind of pre-train people. Like, hey, this one time this happened, and how could we address it, and what could we say, maybe even make a templated response so that you're pre-trained if something comes up, that it's a very smooth interaction for you. So that's something we've been doing in terms of both setting boundaries and just general like development for our team.
So and I'm going to throw you a curveball here. I know we've talked a lot about we've talked about like the training that you've done with our team and the boundaries at work and with our managers and all that stuff. I'll talk a little bit about our boundaries that we set at home with us and our family. And I'll start with one that you, for years, I'm not saying it was ever like divorce fodder in our marriage, but it was one of those things for years you were constantly angry with me about. Is I was really bad. I had no boundaries with my work email and my cell phone.
Oh, yeah. It was the cell phone. Yeah.
and it was really bad. And it was what it was, and it stemmed more from, we deal with a lot of clients, we deal with a lot of people. Maybe once a week, once every other week, whatever it might be, we get an email from a client in the evening when they get home from work and they see their project and they're frustrated or mad or something didn't happen or something's wrong or whatever it might be. And we get these emails and they'd come in at like 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. And then I would sit there and read them, and then it would be like, it would just suck the life out of our relationship in the evening, watching TV and being together as a husband and wife.
Yeah, even if you didn't tell me what was happening, I could viscerally feel something changed in the room. And it was, again, we're not saving people's lives.
Yeah, we're not rocket surgeons here.
And and we call them keyboard warriors. People send messages before they think,
right,
and before they process.
Right.
Because
and we're all guilty of that.
Yeah, if we're not being self-aware and we haven't trained ourselves not to be, right?
Right.
It's easier to send a hateful text or a hateful email before you really think about how you're feeling and is it a big deal. And so that would ruin the night. You wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't sleep. There's nothing you can do about it at 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
You can't go look at a problem or have a meeting with somebody. And then 99% of the time, by the time we get to the office, where now we haven't slept, we haven't eaten, we're snipping at each other. By the time we get to the office and can call them or go down and look at them, they have calmed down. And you or the project manager go and meet with them face to face, and it's not a big deal.
Well, so this was probably, I can't even remember. I'll say it was 5 years ago. It was probably more than 5 years ago now. But you forced me, and I will readily admit that I went kicking and screaming into setting better boundaries with my email, with my cell phone, with my text messages, all of that stuff. And, now it used to be that I slept with my cell phone next to me. Now my cell phone is in the office. I usually plug it in somewhere. I look at my email for the last time somewhere around 7 p.m. in the evening, maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock. Phone gets plugged in. I really don't look at my work email. Post that, very rarely would I look at my work email post that time in the evenings. And when I do, you have right, and you are right when you yell at me about it. It happens occasionally, and you do get, hey, what are we doing looking at your work email right
Because
now?
it's always something.
Yeah, right. There's always
you
something
never
in
open
there.
it up and it's like, we love you. The people who are eating, not at 9 o'clock at night, but...
But, so I did that. That was a big boundary for me. Like, that was a big boundary. I took I have an Apple Watch. I took my texts off my Apple Watch because, I don't want to see my I really worked on...
And you know what? Your world hasn't crumbled.
No.
We're going to talk in an upcoming episode about tech dependency, and your world is not going to crumble, and you're going to be more mentally stable by setting some of these tech boundaries.
So that's an example of it's hard. We're all addicted, not everybody, but a lot of people are addicted to their cell phones and the social media and everything about the phone, right? It just controls our life now. And it's hard to do that, but it's a boundary that I needed to set for my health, for not only from my own personal health, but for the health of our relationship and my children and being with my children.
Yeah. And I was going to say, in the example you set for our kids, I get a lot of backlash from parents. Well, they have to have Snapchat and they have to do this and they have to be that. And my kids are teenagers and they don't do those things. And you know what? They have friends. They know what's going on. They plug their phones in at night. We have to have the boundaries and the skills ourselves to teach them those things.
And I'll probably lose some people on this one, but I'll use the video game thing with our kids. We have so many friends and people that are around us and so many kids that their kids play video games every night of the week, constantly. And we set a boundary with our kids years ago, and it's stuck, and we haven't really waffled on it unless we're on vacation. Vacation's the only time.
School.
Yeah, but around schools, when school's in session, they can't have video games during the week. They can play Saturdays, they can Sunday, they can get on their video games. But during the week, even if they get their homework, no, you're not doing video games. You're not doing tech. It's just not what we do. And I think that we are trying to set boundaries with our kids that we have more time together. So now we always sit down, we have dinner together. We sit at a table, the four of us eat together, the same meal. Then we usually, it's usually you do dishes, one of them helps you, or they have to go take their showers or whatever, get ready for school the next day, finish homework. And then we try to spend another hour to an hour and a half together as a family if it's watching a TV show.
Depending on the time, as they get older, like they're not home. They're at sports or scouts or something. But when we have the ability to do it, we want to do it because they're going to be gone soon.
They are. So I think that you have to look at, the way you set boundaries at work is also important for the way you set boundaries at home too.
Yeah. And I think that it's about being intentional, right? It's about saying, what do we value, and understanding that you can set boundaries and you won't go out of business. You won't lose your spouse. You won't lose your best friend. And explaining the why if you need to. The why, so many people, once they just understand, they get on board.
Right.
And especially when you're a manager, when you own a business or you're a manager or you're a spouse, you are managing a lot, right? So what are the things you need to do to set boundaries so that you are healthy and you are stable? Because we have so many things coming at us all the time. Being proactive, making those decisions early, beginning with the end in mind. Why do we do this? So that these things all fall in place. What is the goal of setting the boundary? It's not to be a jerk, right? You don't set boundaries because you want to I'm going to get you. It's because it's what's best for the overall relationship or the overall system.
Yeah, it's about being healthy. It's about being emotionally healthy. It's about being physically healthy. It's about
the mutual benefits of for both parties.
Right. There are, Allison, Henry Cloud has a series of books about boundaries.
Yeah, and his books are really good and easy reads.
Yeah, so he's got boundaries for marriage, boundaries in dating, boundaries with your kids. He's got workbook. He's got, the original book was just called Boundaries, and then when to say yes and how to say no and take control of your life. And then he did a ton of different spin-offs, if you will, or versions of that book, based on a few things. Check it out if you get a chance. It's available on audible.com. You get a free 30 days of Audible on us if you go to audibletrial.com/bizmarried. That's audibletrial.com/bizmarried. Sign up there, get a free 30 days. You could listen and download for free that Henry Cloud book. But definitely check it out. And it's, if you don't focus on it in your business or in your marriage or with your children, you really need to start thinking about, hey, we need to set these boundaries. We need to set boundaries of, how we interact with each other, how we spend time with each other, how we interact with our clients and our teammates, and all of those things.
And it's not easy. And I would never imagine it is, because there are definitely things that we still need to set boundaries on, but just pick one little area and try it, and then you can build from there. Yeah,
definitely. Hey, and if you get a chance, go online and find us. We're available. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. At Instagram, we're at BizMarried. Search us on Facebook, Married with a Business. You can also check out our website, marriedwithabusiness.net. Hook us up, find us there. Maybe email us a couple of the boundaries that you have. You can also find some information about who we are and what we do there. That's marriedwithabusiness.net. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back with a show very soon. And remember, not only is it important to focus on your business, but also your marriage, because we're married with a business.